Hi guys, today I'm going to be showing you how to set up a Windows 7 virtual machine on a Mac using Virtualbox 6.1. So you might want to do this if you're just starting out in IT and you'd like to learn how to set up a virtual machine, or you have a piece of software that only runs on Windows 7. Whatever your reason is, just follow along this tutorial to learn how to set up Windows 7 as a VM on a Mac. Okay, so the first thing that has to be done is to download the Windows 7 disk image file. So open up your browser and search for Windows 7 download. I'm going to search for Windows 7 download here. And on the search results that come up, I'm going to select the software download search result from the Microsoft website. And then once we get to the website, click on Windows 7. Okay, and on the Windows 7 we should see options to download, but they seem not to be there. This is probably because Microsoft has since ended support for Windows 7. So we've got two options. We could either sign in and check on the Microsoft developers website page to see if there's download options for Windows 7, or to download Windows 7 from an unofficial source, which I think downloading from an unofficial source might be a better option. So I'm just going to go back and modify my search query here to say Windows 7 download, and then I'm going to try the Internet Archive. So I'm going to say Internet Archive on my search query here. Let me choose that. Okay, and on the first search result, let me see what we're going to get here. Okay, so if you look under download options, you see there's a section that says ISO image and torrent. And if you click on ISO image, you'll see there's two ISO images that you can actually download. There's Windows 7 SP1 64-bit and Windows 7 SP1 32-bit. So click on Windows 7 SP1 64-bit to start the download process. But in my case, I'm not going to download this ISO file because I've already downloaded the ISO image file earlier on. So just download this file, and once you're done, in the next section I'm going to show you how to set up VirtualBox for Windows 7. Okay, so open the VirtualBox application, and once you have it open, click on Machine and click on New. So this will open the virtual machine creation wizard, where you can specify parameters that you would like to have on your virtual machine, such as the amount of memory, the size of the virtual hard disk, and so on and so forth. So the first thing we're going to do is to set a name for the virtual machine. So I'm going to call it Windows 7 VM. And on the machine folder option, you can choose a folder to save virtual machine files, but I usually recommend to leave it as the default. And then on the type drop down menu, choose Microsoft Windows, and on the version, set it to Windows 7 64-bit. So this is the first step, and then once you're done, click on Continue. So the next step is to select the amount of memory or the amount of RAM that you'd like to allocate to the virtual machine. In this case, I'm going to allocate 2048 MB or 2 gigs of RAM, which is, so usually in VirtualBox 2 gigs of RAM is usually the default for Windows systems. So once you're done in this section, once you've decided on the amount of RAM you want to allocate, click on Continue. And then the next step is to choose if you would like to add a virtual hard disk to the virtual machine that we're creating, which is the obvious option since we're creating a new VM. So click on the Create a New Virtual Hard Disk Now option and click on Create. And then the next step is to then choose a file type for the virtual hard disk. So If you intend to only use this VM that we're creating on VirtualBox, then I recommend you choose the VDI file type. But if you change to later export this VM to a different virtualization platform such as Hyper-V or Microsoft or VMware ESXi or VMware Workstation, you can then choose VHD or VMDK. But in this case, we're just going to choose VDI and click on continue. Okay, so the next step is to choose whether the virtual hard disk should be dynamically allocated or a fixed size. I usually like to choose dynamically allocated in this case because a fixed size virtual hard disk, one, takes longer to create, and secondly, if you set it to be a 50 gig virtual hard disk, it's going to consume the entire 50 gig right off the bat, of which you don't want that, because if you set it to dynamically allocated, it will use up the space on your physical hard drive as it grows. So in this case, click on dynamically allocated and click on continue. Okay, so in this section, this is where we then set the size of the virtual hard disk. So I'm going to create a 50 gig virtual hard disk. You can set it to a higher value here or a lower value, but in this case, just set it to 50 gig and then click on create. Okay, so the VM has now been created and it's now ready to run, but we're going to attach the Windows 7 disk image file that we downloaded in the first step. So to do this, right click on the virtual machine and click on settings. Okay, so this will open the settings page for the VM. Click on storage and click on the add, it should be add optical drive option, and then click on add. So you to open a file selection window where you then have to browse to the folder where the Windows 7 disk image file is located. So I've got a software library for ISO image files on my computer, so I'm just going to look for Windows 7 here, which is this one. Then I'm going to select that and click on choose. So okay, we're just going to remove this empty disk. Okay, all right. Okay, so once it's like this, we're now ready to install Windows 7. So in the next section, we're then going to start the installation process. Okay, so to start the installation process, right click on the virtual machine and click on start, normal start. So this will open up the VM and it will then boot using the disk image file that we attached to it. Okay, so if you're going to be using an unofficial image, I usually recommend that you only use it for learning purposes. And if you're going to use a setup like this in a production environment, I recommend that you download or you buy an official Windows 7 image. Okay, so it's going to open Windows Setup, and then we're just going to go through the installation process. Okay, so it's asking us to choose a language to install. Usually it's English United States. Time and currency format, I'm going to choose, let me see if I've got English South Africa here, because that's where I currently am. Let's see, there we go. Okay, and then click on next. Okay, so to start the installation, click on the install now button. Okay, so you'll see it will start saying setup is starting, of which at this stage the Windows Setup program is actually preparing some important files and folders in the background for you. So for the most part, this is just choosing a few options to complete the installation. Okay, so on this step, you now need to decide on the version of Windows that you'd like to install. But then I should point out that the versions that you're going to see here depend on the disk image file that you have. In my case, it's got lots of options, so I'm just going to choose Windows 7 Professional OEM, and click on next. Okay, accept the Microsoft license agreement and click on next, and then click on customize install Windows only. Choose the virtual hard disk that we created earlier on and click on next. So once you click on next, the Windows installation process should automatically start. So you should just wait for Windows setup to finish doing its process. And once it's done, I'm then going to show you how to create a VirtualBox shared folder. Okay, so now that the installation is done, Windows will then ask you to set a username, a computer name, and a password. So the username and the password will help you to secure the virtual machine, especially if you're going to be setting up this virtual machine in a shared environment or on a computer that you share with other individuals. Maybe you're going to be storing in some sensitive information that you might not want other people to have a look at or to have access to. So basically, if you put in the username and the password, actually when you first install Windows 7, once you set your username and your password in your computer name, it will automatically then log you into the VM. So as you can see, the next thing that we're actually going to do is to install VirtualBox guest editions. This is because if you can maximize your screen, just like what I've done, you'll notice that your display is limited. Even if I adjust the screen resolution here, nothing really changes, but it's still limited to a certain area, and it won't display in full screen. And I'm sure you'd want to have your display in full screen. So the software that helps to solve this problem is the VirtualBox Guest Edition software. So to install it, click on Devices and click on Insert Guest Edition CD. So then you open your Windows Explorer, and then once you've opened Windows Explorer, you then click on Computer. Okay, so once I click on Computer, let me just click on Computer right now. Okay, yeah, and then you right click on the CD drive. If you do a right click and you click on Open, and then you click on the VBox Windows Editions AMD 64. That's if you've installed Windows 7 using the 64-bit ISO image file. So once you click on that, it will then attempt to open the installation program, of which the opening process might take a bit of some time, because one, this is a new installation of Windows, and it also depends on the amount of hardware resources that you've allocated to the virtual machine, such as the amount of memory and the processing power that you've actually allocated to this VM. So usually the installation for the VirtualBox Guest Editions software is quite simple and straightforward. There's not much that needs to be configured. As you can see, you'll see a user access control pop-up window asking if you want to allow the program to make changes to the computer. So simply click on yes, and then once you've clicked on yes, another pop-up window should appear, prompting you to accept or to continue. Yeah, there. So on the welcome screen, you simply have to click on next, and then on the choose install location, click on next again, and click on install. So this will start the installation process for the guest edition software, which should not take more than 10 minutes, unless if you've got a very, 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 very slow virtual machine, or if you've really restricted the virtual hardware. So there's a pop-up window that will appear asking if you'd like to install the software. Click on OS Trust Software from Oracle Corporation, then click on install. Okay, so once you've done this, you are now nearing the end of the installation process of the Guest Editions software. So on the installation window, you actually see some entries of what is being installed, device drivers that are being installed, DLL files that are being installed. So all that is happening in the background, and all you just have to do is to wait for the installation process to complete. So I just like the way Oracle did this, because I think they knew that they're probably going to be making some updates and changes to the software, so they then ship it out in a separate installation package that you can download from the Virtualbox website. So actually, if you do not install this software, you actually won't be able to create a Virtualbox shared folder. So let me just check the specs on this computer to see why it's taking a bit longer than it should. So let me just see here. It's actually using I think it's a Core i5 processor with 2 gigs of RAM, so it should be faster than this actually. So I'm not so quite sure why it's this slow, or probably it's because it's a fresh installation. Maybe that's the reason why it might take a bit longer. Or probably it's because I'm running some editing software which might be slowing down the VM as well. Okay, so I'm seeing a reboot needed entry. Okay, yeah, so it's done. So what you just have to do is to click on the finish button, and the virtual machine should automatically restart. If you just click on reboot, yeah, so if you just click on reboot, so whilst the VM is rebooting, I think we're then going to create the virtual machine shared folder. So you open from the virtual machine library, right click on the VM and click on settings, and then click on the shared folder tab. So if you click on the shared folder tab, you'll see there's machine folders and transient folders that you can create. So what you just have to do here is you just have to click on the add folder button. Then you choose a path for the folder that you'd like to access from the VM. In this case, I'm going to choose my the stuff folder, and I'll click on open. And then I'm going to click on auto mount, and then I'll set it as a permanent folder using the make payment option, and click on OK. Click on OK again. And then if you then go back to the VM, okay, so the VM is still shutting down, so we're just going to have to wait for it to shut down and start up again. Since we're doing a restart, it's going to shut down and then start up again automatically. So yeah, folks, this is basically how you set up a VM on a Mac, where you can be using a MacBook Pro or a Mac Mini, or whatever Mac device you're using. You can simply follow the same process on your Mac to set up Windows. And the good thing is, VirtualBox is free software. You don't have to pay for the software, and you can even get the ISO image file for Windows free from the Internet Archive. So the entire setup process is absolutely free. You do not have to actually pay for anything for all of this, which is quite cool. So we just have to wait for the reboot to complete before I then show you where to find the shared folder. I'm just waiting for the reboot to come up. Okay, so I think it's coming up now. Okay, so I'm just going to type in my password. Let me see if I remember it correctly. Okay, all right. So let me log in. I hope I typed it in correctly. Let me see if it's going to log in, because sometimes it says welcome for a long time and then it then tells you that your password is incorrect. But I like to believe I typed it in correctly, but I'm not sure why it's taking so long. It just depends on the specs of your computer and the performance, the hardware resources that you allocate to it. Okay, it's logged in. So to find the folder, open Windows Explorer, and then once you've opened Windows Explorer, click on network. Okay, and once you've clicked on network, we should be able to see a network location in there. Yeah, so actually first I'm going to turn on file sharing. So turn network sharing, then click on, and then I'm then going to click on the VBox SVR shared folder, and inside that network folder I'm then going to see inside the VBox SVR, I'm going to see a VBox SVR/staff folder. So this is where all my stuff is. So this is how you can then copy your stuff from your host computer to a VM and vice versa. So, and you can actually add multiple folders if you'd like, but basically this is how you then set up a shared folder. This actually makes life a lot easier. So folks, this is basically how you install a Windows 7 on a Mac using VirtualBox 6.1. And I'd like to thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope it's been very helpful. So thanks again guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.